lawfulness and quorum of the meeting. According to the regulations, we have quorum when we have at least 25 members present and accounted for, including the vice chair or chair of the RepCo. The meeting to the Representative Council has been posted onto the official bulletin board. There's also a discussion on what this means, which is the internet page 7 days prior to the meeting. RepCo members must be sent the invitation to the meeting in email at least 7 days prior to the meeting. The meeting's invitation should be sent in 3 languages, Finnish, Swedish, and English. We have 25 members, and the chair means that we have sent the meeting invitation to the RepCo email list in all languages. I think everything is declared, so we have quorum and lawfulness. Closing on to item 3, moving on to item 4, election of 2 individuals approving the minutes and 2 vote counters. We will choose 2 vote counters and 2 stand-ins for them, and 2 scrutinizers of the minutes and 2 stand-ins for them. I suggest, as is the custom, that the vote counters will be subbing for the minute scrutinizers and vice versa, which means we need a total of 4 individuals. Should be clear. So 2 minute scrutinizers and 2 vote counters. Opening discussions, and we'll be taking the first suggestion, which the interpreter did not catch because no microphone present. Do we have a second name? Do we have a second individual? You may also toss your mate under the bus. Increased is available. Next up, we would need 2 vote counters. Today's we will be doing a transfer of votes in our election processes today. So we hope we could get 2 individuals who have who are familiar with what that means. I assume that proxy is usable and available. Wonderful. You have a second individual, perhaps? Somebody who feels a pang in their heart, maybe done some electoral voting in the past? You may state it right now. I don't want to be the one throwing people under buses, but I will. Some finger pointing is present. Be that directive or accusing, don't know. Regrettably, we cannot move on to the next item before we have these names here. So from Gylterirengas. Thank you. Closing discussions. We will choose as scrutinizers of the minutes Luoma and Palmqvist, and stand-ins Prax and Lammi. Choosing as vote counters Prax and Lammi. Subbing in as Luoma and Palmqvist. At this stage, you may also give what nice weather it is outside.
No announcements to make, so we can close discussion, which was quite short. Then, closing item 6, moving to item 7. Establishing the composition of the Representative Council and Representative Council groups. The Representative Council rules of procedure state at the first meeting of the Representative Council's term of office, when the composition of the RepCo is established, the electoral alliances of the RepCo elections are declared as RepCo groups. unless otherwise stated by a member or deputy member of the RepCo. The electoral alliances appoint a chair and a vice chair for the RepCo groups. The Central Election Committee confirms the results of the RepCo elections at its meeting, and the election results are published on the Student Union's official notice board in accordance with the election bylaws. If an electoral alliance or a group does not announce otherwise, the representative of an electoral alliance is appointed as chair and the vice representative as vice chair of the Representative Council group. Annika, if you may. We will go through the chairs and vice chairs of each group. If Aallon Kokoomus could start. Malkamäki from Aallon Kokoomus. Juha Tihonen is our chair, and Marko Ikavalko is our vice chair. Then Kem next. You in the back row. Palo from Kem. Our chair is me, Evelina Palo. Vice chair is Juha Malinen. Kylteri-Rengas next. Currently our chair is Mikael Blinnikka and vice chair is Juha Huikuri, but there may be changes to this. You can ask the relevant board member about this actually. Thank you. And Luja. For Luja, Jenny Santala as chair, vice chair, Valtteri Erkkilä. Thank you. And Luava next. Luava, Jonna Lipponen, me, is the chair. And vice chair is Noah Clark-Byrne. Roarte. Yes, Lucas Jordalasenius is the chair and Lu Chen is the vice chair. Skisma. Härkönen from Vihreämpi Aalto. Ida Parkkinen is our chair. And Marcel Berta is our vice chair. We cannot accept this at the moment. A person who is member of the board cannot be the chair. So if you can select a temporary chair for now, you can change it after the turn of the year. Silva Robbins will be the chair for now. Voga next. Keskinisula from Voga. Elena Keskinikula is the chair. Stella Brunkrona as the vice chair. and Voltti. Let's skip Volt for now, Voltti for now, and move to Yhden tähden liike group. Yes. Please let us know. Yes, a chair for Voltti, Emil Fielman. Then Yhden tähden liike. Sampo Sainio as chair. Yes, thank you. Sama pitää meeting technical difficulties, but we can overcome them. So the Representative Council decided to establish the compositions of the Representative Council and the Representative Council groups. This has been decided. Closing item 7, moving to item 8. Preliminary debate on Representative Council committees. So at the first Representative Council meeting in 2023, the Representative Council established the Finance and Real Estate Committee, as well as the Community Committee. In addition, the Advocacy Committee, which has prepared changes to the policy paper, was established at the second meeting. The committee's activities are presented to the new Representative Council, and a preliminary debate is held on the composition and tasks of the committees for 2024. The committees are elected at the second meeting of the RepCo in December. Please, you have the floor. Yes, thank you. This presentation was sent to you via email. You can also find the slides in English from that email. Amina Parkkinen, currently the chair of the board, now standing in for Mr. Ilma Virta, our executive director. So, today's purpose of the discussion, well, is to discuss the committees to be set up for next year. But it's also good to bear in mind that we will make no decisions today regarding the committees. We will do that in the next meeting. So today we will just have this preliminary debate on what kind of committees you feel would be needed. And what will happen between this meeting and the next one is that the groups should talk about who of their own members would be interested as running for candidates for the committees, because all committees have members from the groups, and then we also need to select the chair for these committees as well. And also wise members of the Representative Council can be selected to the committees as well. You don't have to be a regular member. Here is an excerpt from our rules of procedure. So the Representative Council may establish committees by separate decision, and the Representative Council must determine the task, term of office, chair, and members of the committee when establishing it. Unless otherwise ordered in these rules of procedure or the regulations, the work of the Representative Council committee shall comply with the rules of procedure of the board to the extent considered necessary by the chair of the committee. Then more about the actual committees, how they function. They assist in the preparation of matters to be discussed in the Representative Council between meetings. And what this means in practice is that committees may meet between RepCo meetings to work on, for example, documents, have some preliminary debate about issues, or if groups have already sent in some questions regarding items for the meeting. And this is useful to have these discussions well beforehand, because then we can keep our actual meetings a bit more concise and because we can also involve the representatives better. This usually means that the decision to be made is more in line with the general opinions of the representative council. But this means that all groups would need to have representatives who are already somehow informed about the issues and can communicate this information to other members of the group. They, as board of the office, may also request support from the committees in forming a policy or opinion, also in matters other than those discussed in the representative council meetings. As an example, the community committee may, for example, talk about smaller projects organized by the board or office. The committees may also bring matters to be presented at the meetings of the representative council. And what this means in practice? Well, this year, each committee had one full seat and one reserve seat for each representative council group that had full representatives in the council. Of course, this is up to the discretion of the representative council. You do not have to adhere to this, but this is what we did this year. Usually, the term of the committees is 1 year, but of course, this is not set in stone, but it's usually the recommended duration. The working language is Finnish or English, depending on the composition of the committees. But however, the language of the minutes must always be Finnish. Then if we look at the committees that we have had this year, we have had 3 committees: the Finance and Real Estate Committee, the Community Committee, and the Advocacy Committee. The Finance and Real Estate Committee, also called TAKIVA, in short, in Finnish, handles matters related to our financial situation, budget, zoning projects, construction projects, housing regulations, etc. So everything related to finance or real estate or both. Then the Community Committee, which is the abbreviation for which in Finnish is YWA, handles all matters related to our field of organizations, the student culture, operating grants and community structures, etc. As I understand, Community Committee did not actually hold meetings this year, but they have been quite active in previous years, so it depends on the year. We've also had this Advocacy Committee, also called AYYE in Finnish, which was established this year after a break, because this year we had the renewal or update of our policy paper, and we wanted to involve the representative council in its preparation. So this Advocacy Committee has been very helpful in that. Then we have the office's proposal, but this is more like what we think would be good, but of course you don't have to take these as is. These are just our suggestions. So these are pretty much the same committees as we have had this year, but there's also the 4th committee here, which I will talk about a bit more later. So for the Finance and Real Estate Committee, the wish here is that it would continue its operations in the same ways as in 2023. And for Community Committee, not as in 2023, but rather in a way that they would actually hold meetings this year. And that's why we would like there to be a Community Committee next year as well. We had talked about this when updating the policy paper, that hopefully there would not be these giant projects of updating of very big documents anymore, so that rather through the Community Committee, we could look at the update needs of documents every year, so that we wouldn't have these huge projects every 2 or 3 years. Then we have here in parentheses, we have the Strategy Committee. And this is here because in the next year's list of projects, we are also updating AYYE strategy for next year. And we feel that we want to involve the representative council in this as broadly as possible. But this is here in parentheses because this project could also be handled within the Advocacy Committee, for example. to kind of reduce the number of working hours that would be spent if we have 4 committees. Then we also have the comment on the proposal from Aallon Kokoomus, where the proposal was to set up also an administration committee, and its task would be to update AYY's SYL regulations. Thank you for this. This is very good to have a discussion about this, but our comment from the office is that when I just talked about that the advocacy committee could also handle the strategy and the policy paper, so perhaps the advocacy committee could also handle the SYL regulations. Or do you feel that it would be better to have an own committee for each of these documents? Or if the advocacy committee could handle all 3 or discuss all 3? This was my introduction to the topic, and now I think we can open the discussion. You can request for the floor if you're just by raising your hand. So now I want to hear your thoughts on what kind of committees we will establish. Will we have a community committee, advocacy committee? So what is your opinion about all this? Luoma from Luova. Fun to establish several committees, but getting actually enough people to join them and attend the meetings and having someone who will chair them may prove difficult. And that is why I think I would be very cautious when establishing new committees. So maybe it would be better if we would only have 3 committees next year: Financial Real Estate Committee, Community Committee, and Advocacy Committee. So no more than that. Thank you, Köngas from Aallon Kokoomus. Look at our people here. There aren't that many, but our proposal, the idea there was just kind of voicing the need to update AYY SYL regulations. So if we can task, for example, the advocacy committee with this, I think that would be fine as well. We don't have to necessarily establish a new committee for it.
Yes, Praxisma. The committees sound very nice, like Luoma stated. I'm thinking, of course, I'm very not yet well versed. How do we move? Like, for example, if we have the problem in earlier years that our committee is not doing anything, what is kind of the sensible order of things? We start to set up a committee and think of an individual who wants to be in a committee, or let's not put the cart before the horse. So maybe kind of find out who would want to do something, and based on that, find out do we have a committee or not? If no other requests for the floors have been made, moving to decide. The template is that the Representative Council decided to establish the compositions of the council groups. We'll have more discussion about the committees. Closing item 8. Moving on to item 9, electing, yes, so interesting things. Election of the Representative Council Chair for 2024. In accordance with the Constitution of the Student Union, each student union member is eligible to serve as the chair or vice chair of the RepCo. The term of office for the RepCo chairs is a calendar year. However, before the beginning of the term of office, the chairs of the RepCo may serve as chairs at meetings addressing matters referred to in Section 10. The method of transferable vote is used in the election of Representative Council Chair, is specified in more detail in Section 21 of the Constitution Regulations. So yes, let's go through the RepCo chairs and the board formers vote in more detail. Let's go through all the tidbits. About the regulations that according to Section 21 of the regs, we discusses the system of votes. This has been opened as such, which is in the next slides. Said the same regulations, getting to Section 26, and that the chairperson of the board will be chosen as the same manner as the RepCo chair. So the voter will mark the presented candidates in the voting slip in the way they see fit. Best one first, second one second, and so forth. The voter can also write down less names than there are candidates. Each voting slip is counted as a vote to the number 1 on the voting slip. If a candidate has more than half of number 1 votes, they win the vote. If none of the candidates gets a single majority, the least amount of votes candidate is eliminated from the contest. All of their voting slips will be transferred to the candidate with their name as in the second slot of the vote. If at this stage a candidate gets 50% of the votes, they win the vote. If none of the candidates still has a majority, the least amount of votes gained member is eliminated as well. And all of their voting slips will be transferred to the next non-eliminated member. This will be done as many times as possible until we have a candidate with a simple majority. If the candidates end up in a tie at some point, they'll be determined by internal order as is stated by the 22nd section of the regulations. If it's unable to decide whom the vote should be transferred, the surplus will be divided evenly between all candidates. It's so that it's a bit harder term to vote. We'll go through this once again before we vote, but this as a background. Next up, we have a few applications for the chair of the Representative Council. Each applicant gets 1 minute to introduce themselves. The other candidates will wait outside while they introduce themselves. Each candidate then has about 5 minutes to answer any questions the RepCo might have. In addition to this, we may also have application slides or other material what the applicant has deemed Meaning to be shown has been given to the secretary beforehand if they wish to do so. We have currently 2 applicants. 3. Who was the third one? So for the mishap, we have 3 applicants. The order of presentations has been tallied out by a lot, starting with Fielman. At this stage, I would ask Ropponen and Kundu to recuse themselves. If somebody wants to reset themselves as a candidate, that is still a possibility. Regrettably, no clicker available. One moment while we fetch the material. So next slide. So me, I'm the nth year student. I have a long experience in Repco, strong processing skills, and I have a strong will to improve. And enabling is very important to me. You decide, I make sure you can. My materials points are openness, reachability, and accessibility. Material needs to be available. Preparation needs to be clearly and knowingly reachable. And decision making needs to be clear and inclusive. Regardless of you what to think about me, I have a strong will to do this for you. So I care about this thing. And as the chair, I would give you the best opportunity to decide on things. Thank you. Opening the discussions. If you have any questions to the candidate, you may present them at this stage. You mentioned in your presentation that you have strong will to develop. Maybe a few concrete examples. What would you like to develop further? So yes, we talk about decision making. You need, or we need to have the material available. And so the material is not being stated very well. As chair, I would enable and ensure that you have all the knowledge. Might be hard to find out what's going on at which point. I will ensure that you have the opportunity to find out what the student union is doing clearly and who is in charge. So if you want to take a stance and advocate, there's clear-cut ways on what can you advocate on and by whom and who's doing what. The RepCo meetings have been quite long. What would you do about it? I would maybe have more meetings, and these things can be divvied out. And meetings have been long for the fact that the information has been received very late, or it has been hard to gain. So we've had to discuss all of these things in the meetings. So by getting you the information beforehand, we can be more efficient. Both as chairperson, I'd go through all the groups, ask if there are things you may bring forth, and then participate all these parties and get all voices heard. Lipponen Luova, I understand people might be hard to reach for the meetings. How would you develop this? This has been a problem in our RepCo ever since the start. And this is a hard problem, a difficult problem. I don't have a magic wand or silver bullet answer for this, but I would say that if the RepCo feels that we can meetings are fast and efficient, then people wouldn't be afraid to participate, to kind of waste their evening or spend it in their entire day. So you have we're going back to the point where you have the chance to advocate before the meeting takes place. Then we don't have to spend so much time in the meeting proper and be more efficient. Any last questions? No other questions. I thank you for your introduction and recuse yourself from the room and ask Rapponen to join you. So, have about a minute. I'll knock the gavel when you have about 10 seconds left. Knocking the gavel a second time when you're out of time, after which you have time to finish your phrase. Don't try to lengthen it too much, keep it brief. After which we will have about 5 minutes for questions. If you want something to be projected onto the screen, please. I don't have any slides, so let's go straight to the point. So hello, I'm Sakari Rapponen, 6th year automation student. Spent quite a long time in my Aalto and also active circles. And there I've also been in committee leaderships and latest in the Teekkari Culture Committee. And I have quite a large knowledge of how this community works, which I would like to make all the activities more efficient, get all the information flowing from the important parties, and to ensure that for these meetings we can actually get active participation. Otherwise, I can just state that student activities are always good. Everybody join in everything. Thank you. Any questions for Sakari? Lammi. Lammi Kyltärirengas. So of course, the legislation has quite an official role for the REPCO. How would you see in practice AYY's REPCO's role towards the board? I'd state that the point is to oversee the activities, give instructions on what kind of decisions should be made. The board will always seek for advice on what kind of decisions should be made. Does this answer the question? So the REPCO meetings, lately they've been quite long. What would you do to ensure that we have shorter meetings? I think that a lot of the length of the meetings has to do with the fact that we need to discuss a lot of things in details, budgetary things and other unsure things. So people can actually get the required information, make a decision. We should check that we can get more high quality info to support our decision makings, and especially that I support that take preliminary request for the floor on preliminary statements on all electoral coalitions, and once we've had those, we can have something else, but keep the discussion flowing and separated so that each item has a clear goal, not just discuss this thing and go. Hopefully this answers the question. Max from Schisma. You mentioned a couple of times that you'd like to improve transfer of knowledge to the REPCO so that we know what is being decided. Are you thinking of any concrete measures that you could do to develop this as chairperson? To start with, my understanding that currently this is kind of suffered for the fact that we would need a more active stance towards to maybe be sitting in the board, but be that necessary or not, but aiming towards discussing openly and not just complaining about we have bad information, and start from the fact that we will participate the individuals who bring things forth and set things on an agenda, discuss with them well beforehand, ask information beforehand, not just we get the information after the meetings invitations have been sent out and get clarifications, but we'll actually get the clarifications well beforehand, before the decision day and the decision week, to increase the impact of the information, not just getting these fulfillments and extra info, and translations will be late and all at the last minute. Any other questions? If no, I thank the candidate, and you may ask the third candidate, Kundu, to enter the room.
All right.
We speak English? Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Then we will go this through in English. So basically, you will have about 1 minute to introduce yourself. If you want to have your application or something on the screen, you can tell us. Once you have about 10 seconds left, I will knock once. And once the whole minute is up, I will knock twice. After that one, you are allowed to finish your sentence, but after that one, you have to stop your presentation. And after that one, the council will have about 5 minutes of time to ask you questions about your application or why you are running as the chairperson of the representative council. So, just tell me once you're ready and your time starts.
I'm ready.
Yeah. All right.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kundu. I'm from Bangladesh, and I have been living in Finland since 2019. Presently, I'm studying in Computer Communication and Information Science, Department of Communication and Networking, and my major is wireless communication. I'm very much last year of my master's studies. Coming to Finland was one of the greatest experience of my life because I have learned many new things, and I have gained so many experiences that it was really pretty much practical for my own life. And after staying in Finland for more than 4 years, I'm obviously in love with this country and with Finnish people. And if I am given the opportunity for something to do for the people, then I'll be happy to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the council? Yes, Lammi. And please ask your questions in English.
Lammi Kylterirengas. So, aside from the legal aspect of the representative council, which is obviously stated in the student union law, how would you describe the role of the representative council, especially towards the AYYE board?
In my opinion, this REPCO is mainly formed by the students, and I think students are the most strong element of this community. And I think for AYYE, this strong representative community will be really like motivating and also progressive for the community. And in my opinion, this sincerity and honesty that as a chair, hopefully I'll progress, will be effective for this student society.
Burn, Luova. What steps will you take to streamline meetings in the future?
I'll mainly concentrate on this study-related part, and as a student, I have faced so many difficulties when I actually actively joined in this study curriculums of Aalto University. That is the one thing that I'll add in the advocacy things. Another thing is for the membership fee, which in my opinion is a little bit expensive, but I'll try my best to expand the activities of AYYE towards the student, and I'll try my best to make this communication more suitable and quicker between the students and the AYYE community and AYYE representative council.
Do we have any more questions? Brax.
Yes, Brax, Schisma. You raise a good point about the connectivity between the representative council and the student union members. However, also another point of connectivity between the REPCO and the AYYE kind of other governing bodies has suffered historically from the fact that the information that the REPCO decides may not have been like really widely available for them to discuss or even make decisions about. So do you have any concrete examples about how you would make the information flow better between AYY's other governing bodies and the REPCO?
That's a very good question. I think public survey is one of the best possible way for this. And if I could make these surveys really acceptable to other students and really easily accessible, then I believe that at least from 100 students, we might get 1 or 2 very important information or something that we should make this correction about some mistakes that we are doing. So I think for the time being, the surveying among the students, that's the most important thing.
Thank you. In this case, I would ask you to go outside, and we will call all of you back in once we are ready. Tässä vaiheessa avaan aiheesta keskustelua.
Now I will
Eli
open
edustajista
discussion.
pystyy keskenään pitämään puheenvuoroja, niin kannatuspuheenvuoroja
So you can hold
kuin
supportive speeches
kommentteja, kysymyksiä
and also
itsellään ehdokkaista.
voice comments or questions among
Sekä
yourselves about the
eikä ne
candidates
mieleen tuleekaan
or whatever
tulevasta
you may feel that is
edustuspuheenjohtajasta.
relevant to this. I encourage the representatives to voice your opinion freely. Of course, this is still being streamed, but please feel free. Usually there are some supporting speeches at this point, and also maybe a discussion about the questions and their answers. Yes, Lammi. We'll look at the 3 candidates and look at the track record. How active they have been in the student union or in the representative council and what they have done. I think that Ropponen is the obvious choice because he also has the kind of a way of operating that would really make the AYY's operations run more smoothly and to develop also our operations. Thank you. Thank you. Brax. Brax from Schisma. Comments on actual candidates, but just wondering about the role of the REPCO chair. Because it's of course good that this body works if people feel free that they can discuss. So I think it would be important to have more kind of a team formation aspect to represent council. So maybe the chair could also promote this kind of a formation of a team or a group or a team spirit in official or unofficial ways. And is this maybe something that we should consider when considering the candidates? Thank you. If there are no other requests for floor, give you the chance to do that. The floor is still open. Okay, yes. Come up from Vihreämpi Aalto. I worked for a long time with Sakari Ropponen in our guild, and I can say that it's very pleasant to work with him. So I am backing him. Okay. This is in English. If there are no other requests for floor, and movement to vote. So we will conduct a vote using the transferable vote method. There's any questions regarding the vote? We can go through the actual process one more time as well. So let's go through what you will be voting on. Next, come forward to get your voting slips, the ballot. That is, you can write down 3 names in the order of your preference. And the first one is your number 1 favorite. Second is your second favorite, and third is your third favorite. Your least favorite. You can also leave. You do not have to write down all 3 names, but 3 is the maximum. Now, those without the right to vote, please leave this room. Kuranime, you can stay here.
Yes, state when we are ready. Wonderful. We have a result. No revotes necessary, and we have a new chairperson for the representative council who has been chosen. As stated, the votes have been tallied and counted and checked, double checked. Hurrah. Candidates, can we get candidates on the screen? Okay. I think we remember our candidates then. The vote results. Undu got 1 vote. As a result, Fielman got 2 votes. And Ropponen got 42 votes. So Ropponen is chosen. Thus we choose as chairperson Ropponen. And since I have not been stated as the next chairperson, so the new chairperson can continue the meeting. So the Repco decided to choose as chairperson of the board, Saga Ropponen. Closing item, I think 9. Moving on to item 10, election of the former of the board. In accordance with the Student Union's constitution concerning section 6 on eligibility. Let's read from the paper, yes. So each student union member is eligible to serve as member of the Repco or the board. Section 26, former of the board, states that the Repco elects the former of the board in the same way as elects the chair of the Repco. Similar vote as before. So we have 4 candidates. Which have been the chair will be banging on the gavel when you have 30 seconds left, and then twice when the time is off. State order. First up, Mante. After which the Repco has the time to ask questions. The former of the board selections, we don't have any timetable constraints. And during these The other candidates will wait outside. So the order will be Monte, Fanni, Oskari, followed by Kundu last.
Tested. Okay, it's working. Nice.
When you're ready.
Speaking in English.
Good evening, representative council members, audience in person, and audience offline. I'm honored to stand in front of all of you tonight here as the first international and arts candidate for the former of the board position. My name is Mante Jigelite, and I'm a third-year collaborative and industrial design student at School of Arts. I was born in a small country of Lithuania. However, most of my life I spent living abroad, making me a proud third culture kid. My journey at Aalto University began in the fall of 2021, when I moved here to pursue my master's degree. Observing the vibrant and diverse student community, I became involved myself. So I was the Tokyo School of Arts Association vice chair, and where our main goal was to rebuild the arts community post-COVID. And this year, I'm the AYYE board member responsible for new students, internationality, and equality. Yeah. Sorry. As a leader of 2024, I would like to bring courage, empathy, and collaboration. Okay, I'm sorry. I think I got confused and we all got confused. So I have 3 minutes, you bang on 30 seconds, and then we're wrapping.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, I'm going to leave the room and then re-enter.
Thank you. That's absolutely acceptable. Alkuko käyttö. Jatketaan uudestaan.
Okay, let's imagine I'm here again. You don't know me, and I'm going to present myself again. It happens, we're all human beings, and this is just an evidence of that. Okay, but let's go again. So, hello everyone, my name is Mante, and I'm honored to stand in front of all of you tonight as the first international and arts candidate for the former of the board position. So, I was born in Lithuania, but most of my life I did spend living abroad, and as a result, I'm proud to call myself a third culture kid, but also an adaptable and open-minded individual when it comes to challenging and new environments. And as I've mentioned previously, my journey at Aalto has begun a few years ago when I moved here to pursue my master's degree studies. And, you know, observing what is happening in our community, I found something for myself. So I became involved in Tokyo, the School of Arts Association, and I was elected as the vice chair. And we really took the toll kind of to rebuild the arts community post-COVID. And this year, I'm the AYYE board member responsible for new students, internationality, and equality. My values that I want to be driven by in AYYE in 2024 is courage, empathy, and collaboration. I think it's important more now than ever that the students come together, that we support each other, and that we amplify our voices. And my 3 campaign points that I've been delivering throughout kind of my campaign is, first of all, is the sense of belonging for all members of the community, regardless of their nationality, language skills, and field of study. Second of all is that, considering the current political discourse, I think it's important that AYYE is a loud and courageous advocate on behalf of all students. And the voices are being heard both on the university level and also on the national level. And lastly, considering that our community is constantly expanding and growing with the new intake of new students, I think it's important that AYYE is driven sustainably through financial and social resources when it comes to our activities and structures. I believe that I have the great motivation, profound involvement in the community, and love for this community to make sure that we're building a better, more inclusive and accessible community for all members. And on that note, I would like to thank you for listening. Thank you for catching up with the second time. Thank you, kiitos, tak, ačiū. Yeah, it's question time.
No. Sieltä perältä.
From the back.
Palmqvist Rengas. As you have been part of this year's board, what are the key takeaways that you want to take from this year to next year?
Yeah, so one of the main key takeaways for me is the way we worked as a board, and it's also thank you to the current leadership of IDA, where again we have a wide representation from all fields, as well as both Finnish students and international students, me. So I think the key takeaway is that it's very important that we work together as a team, that we recognize our needs, our strengths, and also weaknesses when it comes to, let's say, decision making, when the time is crunch and when there's high levels of stress. So I think one main takeaway is the fact that working together as a team is very important because we're able to do things together, but also then, make sure the office is doing things with us. Thank you.
Saarenheimo, Vihreämpi Aalto. What do you think are like main themes or issues that the next board will work on to?
Thank you. So I would say a lot of the projects are driven through the action plan that let's say, how do you call it, the last or the current kind of representative council will choose. I think one of the things that we're pushing through is, for example, the advancement of equality and non-discrimination, meaning that, we have the representation and also making sure that everyone is able to participate regardless of their background. And I also think another key point is also regarding the automatic membership fee, that we have to constantly advocate both, let's say, on the national level, but also to the students. What are the membership fee benefits to the students? What is the value of them? And how do you make sure they gain the best out of it? And lastly, I think it's also continuing the advocacy theme regarding what has been happening in the current political discourse, ensuring that the students' voices are being heard of both local students and also international students. Thank you.
Tästä edestä. Luovalta.
Lipponen, Luova. If I have understood correctly, you have talked about the nations, Finland's politics on a nationwide level. Do you think AYYE should make statements regarding our nation's politics? And if so, should it be the board or should it be some other substance? I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is a great question, and I think this has always been debated within the student union of what, let's say, we should do. I think, again, it comes to the decision of the board. So again, I think it's important that we have these discussions about what is happening on the national level and how it is affecting the students, both, let's say, their livelihoods, financial aids, housing allowance, and so on. So I think it is important when it comes and strictly affects the students and their well-being and their livelihoods. In that case, I would say, yeah, it's important that we make a stance on that.
Sieltä takaa. Lammi, yes. Eikö hänet opita vielä?
Lammi, Rengas. Given that you have now been in the AYYE board for one year, and then obviously while you're applying for next year's chair, you also carry some of the experiences from this year. So I'd like to hear one negative and one positive aspect of the fact that you would continue directly from this year's board to the next year's board.
So if I will bring some negativity into the next year's board? Well, maybe you could clarify a little bit what you mean by the question.
So basically, one good thing about the fact that you have also served in this year's board, and one negative aspect or thing that might come up from the fact that you have also been a part of this year's board and would then continue on to the next one.
Okay, maybe I would like to start with the negative and then we go to the positive one. I think right now what is evident, even also it was evident in today's panel discussion, is the language accessibility. I, as the only international person on the board, have been fighting regarding the language accessibility, and I think it's very important to acknowledge now that we have the newly elected REPCO, like the language accessibility is being pushed through, so then we are making sure that English-speaking people and also the Swedish-speaking people are able to participate. That also means that we have to make sure that the documents arrive at the same time, or at the same time as for everyone. So I think that's something, a negative experience that I would like to kind of bring forward, but at the same time transform into a positive experience, because it's about accessibility and the ability for the students or the board members or the members in general to kind of participate equally in our activities. And the positive experience I would like to bring is the sense of safety within the board that we have in order to make sure that, again, if it comes to the difficult decisions, we are able to talk them through to make sure that everyone is being heard and we make a decision together as a board rather than like it's being only a few people that are like, you know, taking the stand. So this has been great, working great, that we have been able to have difficult conversations within the current board. And I think that's something I would like to kind of pursue forward if I'm elected as the chair. Thank you.
Sieltä kokoomuksen puolta.
Vanhanen, Aallon kokoomus. How do you see the mandatory membership of the AYYE? Is it a good thing or not?
Well, if we talk about the budget, over 1/3 of our income does come from the automatic membership fee. I do recognize that this is being right now very widely discussed on the national level politics. I do think as AYYE we should be ready with a kind of clear plan of what happens next in case it is being discontinued. And at the same time, I've also been talking about this in the panel discussion, the fact that one thing is being ready, prepared, like what is the plan kind of be in case it's being discontinued. But at the same time, we have to be very vocal and loud kind of in our communication towards the members, okay, what is it's for them, what they can gain for it, and how they can benefit by being a member there. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. But if you could decide by yourself, would you continue with the system or not?
In the current scenario, yes, I would continue with the automatic membership fees.
You mentioned that internationality and equality. How do you think? Sorry, my name is Shoriful. My alliance is Bhapasti Bhasemalla. So my question is, how do you think, as you mentioned, internationality and equality? So how do you think which area equality is needed for international students, and how you can contribute to ensure the equality of international students in this area?
I think the first important step is actually recognizing that our structures right now are inaccessible towards certain groups of students, and that is actually international students. So for example, out of the recruited around 140 volunteers this year, we only have 2 international students. I think we have to be challenging ourselves as AYYE and challenging the status quo of, okay, why certain groups of students are not participating? Why don't we see them? And how do we make sure that as a student union or the position or as people in the position of powers make sure that the representation is possible, but that means challenging the status quo, then talking to the kind of the members or the groups of people that are currently underrepresented in our structures, and then developing kind of ways forward of how do we make sure that accessibility and equality is being implemented. And I also want to acknowledge that it's not just about international students. That also comes for the fact that we have less representation from the School of Arts. There's almost no representation from PhD students where they have, okay, for them it's like voluntary to pay the membership fees. But again, how do we make sure that we can be here together from different backgrounds and that we're here for each other? Because I believe that when we come together, when we do things together, we're stronger, we're louder, and we're more efficient.
Rivestä.
Yes, hello, Köngas from Kokoomus. I was thinking when and if this mandatory membership of AYYE ends, should AYYE housing only be given to AYYE members or every Aalto student?
That's a good question. And I think if I just talk, let's say, from like a first kind of glance, I think it should be, the priority should be given to the members of AYYE.
Yeah, Brax, Kisma. We have probably all seen the kind of tendency of the people in here in the Otaniemi culture to form quite fast and strong opinions about, well, anything that the student union does, and often it kind of personalizes into the board, even though it may not be like the actual good way to do this, and we all know the clown faces and stuff. And I think like much of it stems from the fact that the work of the board is kind of maybe a bit still invisible to the like actual members of the union. So how do you feel? Should the board spend more resources in making their well, everything they do even more accessible to the like members of the student union than it already is? Or should the board just take the shouting and continue as they are and focus their resources on the more kind of, say, pressing matters?
Well, I think it's a very valid question. And I think considering if you already voiced that doubt, that, you know, like kind of the student union or like the board is kind of feeling kind of apart from the rest of us, that is a problem. And we have to acknowledge that, and we have to work, okay, how do we make sure then we can move closer to the rest of the community? And it's not just necessarily, let's say, the members themselves, but also to the REPCO, also to the volunteers, and also to the sections and committees that operate within the AYYE. So I would say in terms of resources, I would not say that I have a particular question, but I would say that, yes, our communication definitely has to be improved. And at the same time, I think also we as a board, if we are formed together, we have to make sure that we are approachable. At the end of the day, we are students. We're here to serve the students, and we're doing things for the students. So I think the approachability is another important aspect in all of this. And I think that's in the hands of the upcoming board as well. Thank you.
Vihreämpi Aalto. The volunteers under both AYYE and guilds and other associations have a huge position in upkeeping the culture here in Otaniemi. What do you think AYYE could do in any scale to further improve the well-being of any volunteer?
Great question, and I think this is something I've been also mentioning in my campaign. Our community is growing. It is affecting the volunteers, the board, the office, and the rest of the community. I think for me, what is important is to recognize, okay, what are our, let's say, main events, initiatives, and services that we want to provide to the community? What is, let's say, burning and we have to do because it's a kind of a valuable experience. And at the same time, I think it's important to have the conversation of what is not so important and not so urgent, what we can kind of leave away to make sure that, you know, we're serving our community in our best capabilities, but at the same time without the burden, both on the volunteers, on the board, on the office, and the rest of the community. So I would say, again, it's very being clear with our priorities, our vision, and as well as what we can kind of delegate if possible and what we can remove if needed.
Työjärjestysasia, siinä luovan edustajien näytöt näkyvät streamissa, niin voit laittaa kiinni, jos ette halua niitä näkyvillä.
Stuff on the screen which goes to the stream, maybe.
Vielä kysymyksiä, jos jollakin on.
Remove them. Any questions?
Tulkitsen hiljaisuuden painavaksi. Vielä viime hetken kysymykset, jos on.
Silence means that there are no other questions.
Ilmeisesti striimin ei kuulunut.
There was a cut on the stream, there was a mute.
Mutta tosiaan
voidaan
nyt siirtyä sitten seuraavaan kohdalla. Tässä vaiheessa voidaan antaa yhdet aplodit
have a short applause.
meidän ehdokkaalle.
The next candidate.
Thank you.
Fanni seuraavaksi.
Fanni next.
No niin, eli ennen kuin aloitat, niin kerrotaan vielä, sulla on 3 minuuttia aikaa.
So before we start,
let's
reiterate, we have 3 minutes.
Tulee yksi kopautus.
At 30 seconds you'll get one clap of the cup of the gavel and
lauseasi,
2 taps of the gavel, and you may finish your sentence at that stage.
All right. Yes. Ja tosiaan niin 30 sekuntia
ennen lopusta tulee 30 seconds before your time ends.
Ja sitten kun olet valmis, niin
so when you are ready,
aloitetaan. All right.
Please start.
Moro uudet edaattorit, kanssa-aaltolaiset. Hej alla nya representater, Aalto-med-studerande. Hi nu all representatives, fellow Aaltonians.
I'm Fanny Mattsson, 6th-year Aalto student and a community active. When studying, I've learned a lot about leading and advocating, and thanks to this is because of our Aalto community. Each and all of us have a path through which we develop. My path has gone through freshman tasks and my current AYYE tasks to where I'm now. I love to discuss with people, and to me an important thing, equality is visible in everything I do. I'm interested in people regardless of their background. In Aalto, I have gotten to know both Tekari people, Kytari people, and arts people. With discussion, we can actually affect effective change. Now in English.
on
2024 is also a year of reflection. Let's ask the members what they want, what's important, ponder AYY's activities on how to actually make it more visible and how to clarify it. Develop our values to make it them more concrete and so that they would guide our actions better. About my year and AYYE, it goes with the theme from students to students. First, we must clarify that our board people are just members of AYYE, as everybody is. Second, I wish that the discussion interface would extend from cross to cross, from all parts to all parts. And third, I would like to ensure that everybody who works at AYYE gets these feelings of success. And I also want to see that we can actually champion one another in what we do. One of my most important themes is positivity. I'd like to see next year that this kind of wave of positivity would actually touch all of AYYE. And everybody could feel happy working for AYYE. As a closer, I'd like to state that I'd like to place my smiling face as the forefront of AYYE and spread good cheer wherever I go. Thank you. Opening the floor to questions. So from the coalition. Vanhanen Aalto Coalition, thank you for your introduction. I'd ask about your stance on the mandatory membership of student unions. Do you think this is a good thing? And if you could choose, will you retain it or not? Because I personally think that activities, we should just be so lucrative or so beneficial that everybody would want to join regardless of cost. Thank you. I agree that our activities should be so interesting that everybody would just want to belong. we need to ask our member base, like I stated, that what are the things that get people to stay as members? Is there something we can develop? And I would personally stay as an AYY member, automated or not. Continuation question. If you could decide if we keep the current mandatory membership system, would you keep the system or not? Well, I do not decide, but I don't know. I think that we need to base these kind of decisions on research knowledge. I've understood that this has been looked into and researched. I wouldn't go with like opinions. We need to be based on research information and legislation and make decisions based on that, not by opinions. Thank you. You said you believed in the power of discussion. If on the street or a glöggy evening, you have like Sari Multara, the culture and science minister, what would you talk about with her? Well, things of pertaining to students, most of all. Maybe as an AYY representative, and I'd say like what happens at Aalto, and do they know about how we are faring here? And I'd tell them that we have a nice things are happening here, and maybe like kind of thing on, are there places where we could actually advocate that? What would be kind of current topics which students should have a say in? Thank you, Greener. Aalto representative then. Saarenheimo, Vihreämpi Aalto. What do you feel that are the best ways, be it services or monetary support, which can be used to support the actions of associations? Best services. We as AYY, we have kind of a special situation with the single rental spaces. Not many student unions have these kind of services. I'd say this is one of the key features here. We have daily events, almost daily events in some of our activity places. So it's very important. Was there a continuation question? No? About development? I feel that our facilities should be developed in accordance with our members and the people who use them, because they are the most clear service for associations. The dialogue to develop them should be made with them. Palmqvist Gyltärengas, you've been here in the board for the last year. What would you like to bring to the next year if you're chosen? A few things. An interesting and good question. I think one of the most important tasks of the board is to ensure that the group functions. And I feel that we've had a great bunch. So on my part, I'd like to ensure that the group spirit is still going strong. Everybody feels it's good to be in the board. And if possible, of course, this is not up to me, but this year we've had a very broad scope of students from various fields of expertise. We've had lots of representation. I'd have that much representation as well next year. Max from Skisma. In your introduction, you mentioned several times the fact that the openness of the board's activities towards the members could be improved upon. I feel that this clown face yellings may come from the fact that people don't really know what the board is doing. though activities could be open if you can just seek for the information. Do you have any concrete ways to improve openness as a background or background assistance? Currently, the level of information, there's just a lot of information. Personally, I wouldn't like a 37th Telegram channel on what the board does, what means to develop openness could be done. To be honest, I would have said like some sort of Telegram thingamabob would be good, because people can come there and they can mute it if they feel like it, but that's where the information could be found. First step would be, how do we codify or communicate, like we're doing this or we're doing that? No, but this fall I've had lots of good discussions with individuals. What's the repco? How does it work? And people have been like, ooh, so this is what it's about. I feel like I'm good at giving people information in that sense, and where it's being communicated. If it's not on Telegram, AYY's weekly emails, then let's discuss together what would be good. Okay, and AYY's guilds and volunteers. Is that the Otaniemi culture is thriving? These things grow, and for some of the individuals, these could be quite taxing, these tasks. What could be done on AYY's level to help that the volunteers can thrive and make it? This is a question which is here year after year and which is really important. I think it is a cultural thing. We have the culture, need to do bigger or better. I feel that it's good, honest to say that we don't kind of stop the stunt. What are our core values? We look at those. What do we want with our activities? I think that social tenacity is something, like social well-being is something that needs to be taken into account before we start doing things, be they traditional or new. We need to have the preliminary discussion questions of, is this sustainable? Who's this being done for? So start from that. And if everybody would think about this, we would maybe get cultural change into the community. Thank you, Hintsala from Vapaasti Vasemmalla. You feel that AYY is a party which should take a stance on a national level to things that pertain to students? On a national level, students. On a Finnish level. It's an excellent question. Now my brain is running circles. We have SYL, the student union, Finnish conglomerate for all student unions that kind of advocates for all of us. I think discussing that way is important. Is SYL doing something? But we're not using our own limited resources to do something like we need to do this. But we have quite a large network to utilize these and maybe think about what things we can want to take a stance on. So kind of feel around from other student unions and SYL and what do you feel? And then discuss on the board as well, but with collaboration. From up front.
In
So
the
we're
student
talking
culture
about,
in Otaniemi, and we're also talking about serving AYY members. But if we imagining a student from outside of Finland coming to Aalto, they might not have exactly same expectations of student union life or student culture. How would you explain or make the Aalto community more welcoming to somebody who doesn't have the prior knowledge about it?
Great question. Luckily, we are having these kind of committees or structures that are especially welcoming international students, and I think that's very important because we are having, at least in my opinion, we are having a very unique and special student life here and student activities. So I think that almost everyone in Otaniemi are very eager to tell about it and share their experiences and spread the student culture to everyone. And I think that if we just, of course, it's like depending on the person, like whether they are feeling. The student cultures are different for sure, so it's important to like tell quite deeply that's what is happening and why, so people know. And if they don't want to be part of it, that's totally fine. But at least like giving the opportunity and explaining things is very important, in my opinion.
Renkaan edustaja.
Kyltärirengas representative.
Lammi, Kyltärirengas. Sä puhut paljon siitä, että miten meillä on, miten AYYE on tosi valma yhteisö, miten on tosi iso ja
strong community,
ja miten
have a large
AYYE pystyy resursseilla
community,
tosi
how
paljon
AYYE
tukemaan
can
niitä toimijat siinä alla.
support
Ja nyt kun
the
katsotaan
parties
nykytilannetta
with its
siinä,
resources.
että
Now that we
opiskelijamäärät
look at these
kasvaa koko
systems,
ajan,
we have more
ja siinä
students,
kohdataan äkkiä tämä, että
and we
ihmisillä
come
voi olla
to
ajoittain vähän
fact where
vaikeampi jopa
people might
löytää
have
paikallista yhteisöstä.
difficulties in finding their
Miten
spot in
näet
the
AYYEn
community.
roolin tulevaisuudessa,
How do you
ei
see
vaan ensi
AYYE's
vuonna,
role,
vaan myös
not
pidemmällä
just
aikavälillä
next
siinä,
year, but in a long
että
term?
pitääkö AYYEn ottaa kovempaa roolia siinä,
Does AYYE need to take a larger role on
esimerkiksi juurikin killoille
acting as a
ja yhdistyksille,
facilitator
ja
to
luodaan
guilds, associations?
sitä kautta varsinkin uusille opiskelijoille näitä paikkoja tulee toimia, vai koet sä, että AYYEn pitäisi erityisesti vapaaehtoispestien ja mahdollisuuksien kannalta ottaa kovempaa koppia alkuvaiheen opiskelijoista, eikä niinkään siinä opiskelijaurapolkunsa loppuvaiheella, mikä on tietenkin tällä hetkellä tosi vahva ajatus läsnä.
Which of course is strongly present already. Broad and quite multifaceted question, but it's important. It's hard to come to a kind of a conclusion on one's own. Of course, we need more like a general discussion, maybe. I think that currently the situation is that the freshman orienteering or things are very much tied in with the subject organization. Currently, I think it works. Freshmen, first years can find their spot in a small group because there's a 17,000 students at AYYE. It's quite a large sea to jump into on one's first week. So I feel like, yes, we should use resources for subject organization support, especially to help first years. But I'd like to see that we could also, in the first year, we could tell what is AYYE, what opportunities do we have, that they wouldn't be one or the other. Currently, a lot of people are quite confused on what is AYYE. By going into, for example, events to have kind of a thing there, or kind of a talking to the boards that tell understandably what AYYE is. We could start with that. On the coalition, AYYE has a plan to build the student center. It's progressed quite well, some challenges, but it's probably evident that there will be surpassing the budgets. What do you feel about the project how long will our kind of a budget stretch towards? How long will it be a sensible project? And if it's not sensible, what will we do? Quite a broad question once again. I have been in the Student Center project this year. It has been one of my projects as a board member, and it's been an interesting project. I think that I didn't know anything about the Student Center before I started in the Edari in 2022, so it already talks about our situation. Our new students don't, like second years, don't know what is the Student Center. It's kind of a something that's on the background. Lots of big sums are being thrown about. What is my view on this thing? Well, I honestly, I'm not deciding alone, but I feel that it's a large ideologically important project for our community. I feel like the critique would be received, and then, but we get that the student center will be completed. How will we fund it though? I have no idea. We can maybe think about it with the school. We're discussing with Aalto whether or not the Acre or Aalto could take some responsibility because the situation is challenging. But I would consult our financial committee and maybe other parties who know about the subject. Maybe we could get somewhere from there. Maybe what I'm aiming is that if we surpass the budget by a large sum, would you be ready to kind of sacrifice from other activities? What would we lose? How would this in practice, what would happen? I hope that this isn't so kind of either or situation. I hope we can find other options for the funding. Currently, we've tried to find we've tried to, for example, to get funding from corporations and funds, foundations, but it's quite challenging. We need to find some sort of other solution. We can't take from our services to get a building, even though it would be an important building, but I'd like to see something else, something that's being sought after for. One Aalto coalition. So this is from a zoning issue as well, because Espoo decides on that. How do you see that this lobbying for zoning has been kind of active enough? Important question. But Espoo is a large stakeholder group for us, which it is. Currently, we are preparing with the city of Espoo a cooperation agreement. Hopefully, we'll get to enabling things with that. Hopefully, like zoning related things, which will be one of the big things to do with the city of Espoo. So I hope that this cooperation agreement will be fleshed out and in effect next year. And through this, we can actually get into a better loop with the city of Espoo as well. For the floor, last requests during this question. So you spoke about how AYYE should kind of put itself out amongst the members. Thinking about we have volunteers and all of these groups and students focusing on studies. If you think of all AYY's information could be available for everybody, what level of information would you be satisfied with? What level of information could be? How would you kind of implement sharing this knowledge throughout these levels? Lots of levels, and we of course have levels of activity. You said there are students who mainly focus on studies, and we have more or less people who are active in other ways. I mentioned this earlier that I have talked about the RepCo very clearly to individuals. And I hope that everybody would know about their own groups, like who is sitting here, who are your RepCo members, and to know how do we make decisions. It would be really nice to see, for example, that some guilds or subject organizations have a way that we send a link like we have a meeting, please all watch the meeting, but maybe we could get kind of a summary on what's been handled here and could be linked to a guild chat. Maybe get some information there. And we could maybe start from that. So no questions, no more questions. Köngäs from Alan Kokoomus.
Yes. You already mentioned that when this automatic membership, if it's done away with, then we would need to attract people to stay as members. But do you feel that housing would be one of these ways to attract students? Should it be something, is it something that should be offered only for AYYE members or for all Aalto students? That's a good question. I believe AYYE's one of the most important services is housing, and we are now planning to build 4 new buildings in Otaniemi with about 800 to 1,000 students accommodated. And I would like to see that it would be connected to AYYE in the future. So if you want to live in AYYE's apartments, that would be a member benefit, if I understood the question correctly. Okay. Thank you, Fanny. Now, roaring applause. And next, Oskari. Candidate Kundu has withdrawn from the competition as an announcement. There's Oskar is the last candidate. So yes, you have 3 minutes to introduce yourself. And you have 30 seconds left. I will knock with the gavel once, and I will knock twice when the time is up, but you still have the time to finish your sentence. Okay, just a moment. Let's start the timer. Yes, hello everyone. I'm Oskari Järvinen, 7th year student, and applying for the forum of the board. I have wide experience from both leading this community and working in it. I'm empathetic, easily approachable, trustworthy, and a nice person. And all these values are reflected in my leadership work. That is why I want to form a board and lead the full board in such a way that everyone will feel nice afterwards, and everyone feels after the year that they have had the chance to change the direction of the student union. This year, I feel that the biggest factor influencing this is that our decision-making has been quite ambiguous. There have been several factors that have caused this, but I feel that I want to change the process. I think the clearest example has been our budget discussion. We had very little time to actually discuss about the important decisions related to this. We haven't really had time to discuss about these decisions in depth. That is why I want to say that if I'm elected, I will make sure that the budget will be discussed both by the board and the Representation Council already next spring, not just by the end of the autumn. Secondly, I feel that board is very distant to some members. That's why I want to make sure that our members can really be up to date what our board is doing. And that's why I want to make sure, if I'm elected, that the board will send their latest news after every meeting to the members. This community is very important to me, and I hope that every one of you and all of our members would feel the same. And that's why I want to take our student union together with the board to a direction that everyone could feel like this. And not that the first thing that AYYE is associated with would be the clown face. I want to change that. Next, the questions. First Kylterirengas and then Kokoomus, the National Coalition. Lammi from Kylterirengas, you mentioned the budget discussion as a big challenge or a challenging process this year. Related to this, when taking into account that you have been a member of the board this year, you have the power to modify the processes also as a member of the board. I would like to hear a concrete example of how you have tried to improve the process or solve the problem already this year. This year, throughout the whole year, I have talked about it being nice to have these more detailed numbers. It's difficult to actually see what the numbers mean and how it affects our operations. We haven't really gone into the details, not even yet. And that's why I have always said that I want to have more detailed numbers about the budget throughout the whole year in order to make more informed decisions. Yes, Hartikainen from Kokoomus, then Brax from Skisma. Thank you. Vanhanen from Aallon Kokoomus. I'd like to ask about the obligatory membership of student unions. This is the government program. It says that it will be looked into whether this automatic membership can be done away with. So what is your opinion about the membership system? If you could develop or change it, what would you do? And if you could decide whether to do away with automatic membership or not, would you do that? And if we were to be informed that automatic membership is abolished, then how should we change our operations and prepare for it? Well, first, I feel that AYYE doesn't, at least not very publicly, isn't prepared for what this would mean, how we would react to this situation. The problem is that we don't know how many members would leave if the membership would not be automatic any longer. So that's why it's difficult to make impact assessments on it. I feel that automatic membership is something that we should stick to, at least for now, because I feel it's a good way to make sure that we can produce good services to members. So, for example, in Sweden, the government supports student unions, but I feel it would be better if the students would themselves pay for their advocacy work instead of other taxpayers. And I also feel that if this change comes, we just have to modify our processes. It won't be easy, but we have to do it. But I also want to emphasize that if decision will be made, it will not happen next year. So it would be, the work would be more like a long-term preparation. And also feel that AYYE should not rely as much on membership fees as it does now when preparing the budget. Thank you. And Brax. Brax from Skisma. You already brought up that you want to make the board more approachable to our members. And yes, these are calling AYYE clowns. Most often, is because of the fact that our members don't know what the board does. You also brought forth this interesting proposal about the board sending these recent news to the members. So how would you do this in practice? So if I think about my own life, I have 37 different Telegram channels for AYYE. So that wouldn't be kind of the best possible way for me, at least, to have in 38 Telegram channel. I feel the best way would be that in the last kind of a monthly mail or the last weekly mail of the month, we would inform our members that what we have done during that month and what we are planning to do the next month. Thank you. And ProArte next. Thank you, Nicola from ProArte. You mentioned things that we should do more, like more communications, more figures, more numbers from the office, so that we should do more. But still, there are only 24 hours to a day. There are people here who already have a lot of work on their table. So what could we deprioritize? Use less our energy and resources on. We have talked about these kind of these frills, small things. So for example, golf shares. Maybe we should not focus on administrating them, but rather focus on actually functional decision-making processes. And for example, the action plan projects, that we wouldn't just give our executive director 10 of these projects, so that they would actually have time to process this data and give this information that I talked about to the board. For example, the detailed numbers. Yes. Vihreämpi Aalto. Sarenheimo from Vihreämpi Aalto. I've been a member of a board in a guild. So how do you think that AYYE could the best support the operations of AYYE's associations? For example, monetary or other services. What are the most important and how would you develop them? I feel that the problem here is that we have associations with very different sizes and that have different needs. That's why I think it's difficult to actually see what is the most important. But I think the first thing that comes to mind are the one-time rental facilities. They should be available to all associations. But that's the problem. I believe that we have money, but not, of course, limitless amounts. So that's why I think it would be important that some of the spaces would be free, because we don't have limited money to actually give, amount of money to actually give to the associations. Yes, Vihreämpi Aalto. In Otaniemi, in the culture, volunteers have a very important role. Also those in guilds and associations. But every year there's more and more work. And we do more and more, and many volunteers are very exhausted. So how could we make sure that ensure the well-being of our volunteers? Well, I have a concrete example of that this year. When you have this Tempaus committee form that, our main idea was that we shouldn't go too big. So in the volunteer sector, we have this survey every 6 months. So last time, we saw clear indications that actually the well-being of our volunteers has increased while I have been a member of the board. A follow-up question. What are the concrete measures or things that could promote the well-being of our volunteers? I think one easy, concrete method would to just show and tell the volunteers that they don't have to do everything. So, for example, when I come visit them, I tell them that I'm now going home. You can come with me. Don't be here working until 10 p.m. They don't always listen, but I think it has influenced some people that, especially at the end of the year, people have realized their own limits. Kind of looking at the sections and the people there, see how much work they have. But it all starts from the management, from the leadership. So we have to show a good example.
No, I feel like AYY should just equally support every single place, but I feel like, of course, it is very diverse culture between different places and different like associations. So I feel like for example, our executive director for Tokyo that comes from AYY should use more time under Tokyo for her work so that we could support arts better.
So we'll have a maybe another question. Lipponen Luova. Should AYY take a more strong stance on national politics? If so, would it be the stance of the board or whose? I feel that AYY's biggest task is to take a stance on student politics, which includes national politics, but I feel that educational politics is the biggest thing. If AYY need to take a bigger stance on national politics, I think the decision should be going to the members, meaning the REPCO, not the board. On advocacy related issues, what would be the biggest 3 educational policy themes for next year? I'd say the language policy would be the one big thing. Also, we have a lot of policies where we have doers from different fields of expertise. How do those relate to our community? And third being that how does the Finnish parliament actions affect us? So PKJ funding, etc. So social politics side, I feel that it has been very prevalent, but I feel that it's important to AYY that we get funding to housing, we get funding to our students, and third being that we keep a good foothold on our international experts. We've heard quite good parts, so maybe give some applause. All right, there we go. You maybe open the discussions for the subject. May request the floor on the subject. Proarte first.
Hyvää iltaa kaikki. Good evening everyone. I know you're all probably very sleepy. But I just want to start by congratulating everyone for being here. It takes a lot of initiative and time to be elected and to participate in REPCO. Henkilökohtaisesti minulle on kunnia olla täällä ensimmäistä vuotta. Jotkut saattavat pitää sitä huvittavana, mutta se on minulle todella merkittävä hetki. Kun sain tietää, että opiskelisin Aallossa, ryhdyin välittömästi tutkimaan tapoja, joilla opiskelijat voivat ilmaista mielipiteensä ja huolensa. As someone who struggles with Finnish, I was a bit intimidated starting in Aalto. I wasn't sure how long it would take for me to even volunteer in things such as this. But then I met Mante. Mante, a master student who helped me fleet away my fears and who has had such a big impact not only in my department but in the whole school. in the last 2 years. Mante informerade mig om evenemang, vägledde mig genom utmaningarna som jag hade och diskuterade ansträngningarna som jag hade med början av mina studier. Mante är en empatisk ledare och jag vet att jag inte är den enda som har påverkats positivt av hennes närvaro. Manten empatia on kokemuksella.
Mante's empathy is something that has gained through experience. Most of us agree that the Aalto community must be strengthened and unified. But Mante is one of those individuals who've been affected by all of these potholes. As a third historical student whose international has been in the AYYE board, Mante has gone through lots of Finnish material.
Mante's work on the board was difficult, not to mention that Mante's native tongue isn't even English. Yet, despite all the challenges that Mante herself went through, she did it, and she did it well. Tänään,
today, when we choose the former of the board, I'd like you to take into account all of these things. Mante's experience and the effect that her leadership could have on this university. She's a team leader who supports cross-disciplinary cooperation and ensures that all parties will be heard.
there are thousands of students currently who don't feel represented in their own university. We can take a big step today in changing that for everyone's sake. Mante's leadership has the potential not to only make this year fundamental, but years to come. Let's make the Aalto community blossom with international students, Finnish-speaking students.
I personally, one of them, I have had the opportunity to work with them. I was in a freshman event led by Fanny when she was the freshman major. I'd like to bring forth how she, as a leader, was warm, inspiring, and takes everything into account. That I applied for a freshman major after that. Not something that would have probably not have happened under anyone, but Fanny was the one who inspired me. In a committee led by her, I have only positive experiences. She actually took people into account, not just on a speech level, but she is an individual who can handle all of this, not just efficiently, but also where everybody can enjoy themselves at the same time. That's kind of my 2 cents. Then from Kim, Kismoten Pro Arte. Takes some technicalities on who should go next. Palo from Kim. Hello everyone, I'm Evelina Palo, and I'd like to second Fanny Mattsson. I was, as the prosessikari freshman leader under Fanny's tutelage. My experience of her as a leader is from this 18 months, but a good picture of her as a person for 3 years. Despite the pandemic, Fanny managed to inspire us into a group. She created a good sense of belonging, togetherness. Fanny listens well. She's easy to approach. She's easy to talk to even from difficulty or difficult subjects. Fanny created a atmosphere where one could always state their opinion regardless of whether or not you agreed with the usual opinion of the group. Fanny's also been a mediator, especially after 2 COVID vappus. When we planned for the first normal vappu, it was kind of we had lots of discussion of whether or not we should keep some traditions and get rid of others. Fanny actually took all points into account and had good compromises. And I think everybody was satisfied with the results. All in all, Fanny is a warm individual, a good listener, and an excellent facilitator of discussion. I think that in a board led by Fanny, all points would be considered. Everybody will be taken care of, and it would be fun to do our stuff. Thank you. I'd also like to second Fanny. I don't know Fanny from Otaniemi, but I know him from Boston Promenade. The band. She actually joined the band later than me. She's interested in everything. I think one of the points about Fanny is that she recognized the fact that she might need help now and again, and asks for help. She doesn't think that she knows best, even though she would be the leader. I feel that like she spoke about discussion and interest towards other people and respect all tracks. Your chairperson, your representative council, I'm here for the first time. I'm a new member, but been a long term in this. I've been in VU's board, social politics for a few years, then chairperson of the board, and also as the chairperson for the RepCo. When I changed here, I support Monte for former of the board. This year I've had the great responsibility to do a campaign. And in Monte, all the characteristics that I've noticed in similar tasks. Monte is very, very enthusiastic, very bold, very determined, and I trust her expertise, both with leader of people and things. Thank you. Then Lammi. And I'd like to second Brax that we are very happy that we have 3 very talented and good candidates, very, very well prepared candidates. Never a given. I'm very thankful for that. I think about from the point of view of the community and myself, I'm waiting what Fanny has brought forth. That first we're students, then we're in a role after that. So firstly students, secondarily something else. So that's why I'd like to second Fanny for former of the board, because here or in any random contacts that might be on the street, you see that here's an individual who knows what they want, knows what they want to advocate, and be determined, but a person who's easy to approach and from who you can see that who doesn't get drunk on power, which is important in my opinion. Who can bring the community closer. Thank you. Thank you. Then if we don't have any requests, last request for the floor during the next speech. There we go. I wanted to, based on these presentations, wanted to say something about Monte. I have never met Monte outside of, but I'm pretty impressed on how she has presented herself today, especially the fact how she, as a non-Finnish and an art student, moves in these circles and takes space and wants to advocate and wants to take a stance and wants to create this community, something that can be approached by everyone. I feel that she has a lot to give for especially advocacy, and she is very determined. Rights of students are very something dear to me, which is why I wish to vote for Mante. One request from Kyltärengas, and then we're done on that sense. And moving on. Yes, Turpa Kyltärengas. I want to second for Fanny. I've done a lot on KY's side, been on the Kyltäri side of things. But lately I've also opened my eyes towards Otaniemi and maybe also started to think at KY, the whole of Aalto community, and noticed that AYY is quite a young student union, and we have we've been stacked on old student unions with their own traditions. In all discussions that I've had with Fun in separate situations, she's listening, she understands what the challenges are and how that the community which Funny brings forth, how important it is. I want to develop that, and she wants to develop it as well. And all the discussions I've had with her, that she's mentioned that all parties need to be listened. We're talking about just volunteers and kind of burning out of volunteers. When we have associations that works towards a joint goal where we want to be in the future as a joint Aalto. Thank you. Next up, we'll take all the names of the candidates. And when we're voting, non-eligible individuals will recuse themselves from the room. You may actually do that now. So if you can't vote, remove yourself from the room for the time being.
Team beside you is now missing. The votes have been counted. Now the vote counters, please.
Dear members of the meeting,
English.
We have counted the votes, and I'm happy to announce that the result is in fact legal. "45 votes were given in total, of which 0 were empty and 0 were discarded. This means that according to the rules of the student union, the required vote quota is 22.50. It is defined to the second decimal place. Thank you.
Yes, and starting from the smallest vote count heading up, first one count Järvinen 5 votes, Tsykelötä 11 votes, Matson 29 votes.
And as many of you may have already guessed, this vote amount is enough to surpass the vote quota on the first round.
Ei tosiaan, edustajisto
päätti
hallituksen muodostaja
Fanny Matsonin. Elected Fanny Matson as the former of the board.
Ääntenlaskijat voivat palata paikalleen.
What counters you may take your seats.
Voitaisiin sulkea kokouskohta 10.
And we can close item 10 and move to item 11. Any other business?
Asiat. Onko jollakin jotain esille tuotavaa?
Does anyone have any other business to announce?
Tulkitsen hiljaisuuden sellaiseksi, että ei ole.
Apparently no.
Joten päätään kohta 11 muut esille tulevat asiat.
Closing item 11.
12.
Moving to item 12. Closing of the meeting.
Päätään kokous ajassa
It's
20:54.
54 p.m. Closing the meeting.